Hi, welcome to this special free channeled broadcast, and you are joining us for the replay. We just had a wonderful live experience. It goes for about an hour and 10 minutes, which is a little longer than planned, but then you never quite know how these kinds of messages are going to roll. And because I'm sure some of you have signed up for this, probably because you know me from the energy updates that I put on YouTube and Facebook every month, but you might not be familiar with my channeling, I thought I'd just give you a little context for the channeling that I'm going to do. So it was about 22 years ago that I first heard the voice of my guides. I wasn't looking to, it was a surprise, but it happened. And what happened to me when I first heard them was for quite a few years, they became my teachers. And they really started to not only teach me about some of the things that I was going through in life, some of the things I was seeing in the world, but the compounding effect of channeling for myself regularly started to change my own energy field, and it made me more intuitive. I think, like all of us, the intuition was there for me, and I'm sure many of you are the same. You have a story of how your own intuition developed. But one of the things I've learned about channeling and why we go to channeling is we're often looking to reactivate that frequency inside ourselves. So if you're here because you enjoy channeling in general, or perhaps you're going to enjoy the channeling that I do today and it will resonate with you, it's always interesting to pay attention to the why of that and what is the information, but also the frequency doing for you. I have a monthly members community called The Portal, and it's quite common when we do our monthly broadcasts that I will see our community saying, it's really weird when Lee starts channeling, I fall asleep. And then I wake up again near the end and I don't remember anything that's happened. And I always say, don't worry if you don't really remember the words or you do zone out like that when you're experiencing channeling. I remember many, many years ago, I was in my 20s and I had a Reiki session. And the Reiki master, when I came out of it and went, oh, I think I just fell asleep, they were like, don't worry, the energy was still going in. So in this broadcast today, I speak for a little while intuitively and then I channel. And the other question I just wanted to answer for some of you who've posed this question before: what's the difference between when I'm doing an energy update or when I'm channeling my guides, the Z's? It's very different for me. So when I'm channeling, they see from a perspective and a viewpoint that is very different to my human perspective and viewpoint. So as an energy intuitive and the person who brings you the energy updates every month, I will usually receive several themes from these guys, and I'll just jot the title of those themes down, and then I'll turn the camera on and I will let come through me the words around those themes that are meant to come through. So it's a kind of channeling, it's a step. But when I let the Z's speak through me, as I do every month for my portal community or in workshops or on recordings, it's a different kind of transmission. So just a few things for you to consider and think about. But now we'll drop you into the very beginning of the broadcast, and I hope you enjoy what you experience today. But one of the things that I have come to understand is channeling is in all of us, whether or not you speak to your guides directly or your team of angels, or you're someone who connects with animals, or you're someone who connects with the spirit of nature. Channeling and this ability to go beyond our human conditioned mind, our ego, our thoughts, what we see as 3D reality is not only quite normal to us, but as my guides told me over 20 years ago, they said, as you go through life, you're going to see this become more and more commonplace. So often, the reason that we're drawn to channeling is because we are using it to remember what we can do ourselves. You know, when I work with entrepreneurs, I always say the customer is self-centered, and they should be. We don't, kindly go and browse around a shop to support a shopkeeper if there isn't something in it for us, if we're not looking for some kind of exchange. And I always think with channeling, It might be that your thoughts about channeling are that you're going to it for some help or some elevation. But what is often happening is it's us getting used to that vibration in ourselves. I'm not unlike many channelers out there in that I was taken to see a channeler. I was a little skeptical when I left, and I was really into personal development, metaphysics. I was into all of that. But I was a little skeptical about this man closing his eyes, having a slightly funny voice. I walked away thinking, well, why couldn't he have just said that? And now I fully understand, because when I channel my guides, they say and see things that I am not seeing or sensing at this level. And they can only bring through what I and we are able to take and use. So the reason I share that for those of you who are new to channeling is more and more of us are coming online with our gifts, our sensory ability, and our heart. Our heart energy is asking to grow on the planet. And as I was driving here this morning, I was thinking, gosh, what an interesting time to kind of be doing something like this. And they spoke to me, as they often do, and they just said this is the best time because all of us are trying to navigate our way to a better existence on the planet. And it's crunch time. We're up against quite a lot right now, whether it's environmental, whether it's systemic, there's a lot going on. But one of the things that they have said over the last few years, time and time again, is that you are needed and now is your time. They insist that if we are alive on the planet right now, there isn't a mistake. I know it's a common thing among sensitives and light workers to want to say, oh, I'm sure I'm on the wrong planet, or I'm not coming back here again. I don't want to come back here. And while I get and understand that, the people I have in my life who've had near-death experiences, who can report how extraordinary it feels when you pass over and the light that you're feeling before you come back, is that there's always a reason for us to be alive on the planet. And right now, one of their biggest messages is that we are creating our future more than we could possibly realize. I think that's particularly pertinent at a time when possible futures might be shut down to us, or we believe they're shut down. Or you look at what we've been going through this past year, and a lot of the fight, dissonance, fear, and sadness around everything that's kind of going on the planet right now. One of the things they say is that this time is being used to continually unfold your consciousness. And there will be some of you watching this who are doing that through raising a child. And you're raising a child in a way that will bridge that child from the generation that many of us came from, if we're older, into this new generation, into what it is they're going to need to be. And equally, of course, your child is teaching you, because it's always a two-way street. But there might be those of you who aren't raising a child. Perhaps you have some sense of mission, some sense of purpose around something you want to do on a grassroots level, in your community, within your group of friends. Perhaps you want to do work online, which more and more people are beginning to do, stepping into their abilities as healers, change makers, way showers. I shared this not too long ago, but my story is very common to a lot of the people I see working in this field. It was my hobby and my passion, and it's what I did at the weekends. And it's what I did my job for, to earn money for the workshops I would go to, because back then, we didn't really have the plethora of information and ways that we could connect around spirituality, consciousness, healing. Now there's so much available, which is great. And so the reason I bring all of this up is I believe the Z's are going to give us a message that will be in line with what I'm saying, because what I'm saying is coming through a stream. I also don't know what they're going to say, but I'm aware that for some of you who maybe signed up for this because you've watched an energy update or someone sent it to you, if you haven't experienced channeling before, See how it feels for you. It's okay if it doesn't resonate for you. It's okay if I don't resonate with you. There will be other people out there who might. But the message I've been called to, I think, understand and deliver in my 22 years of channeling and 17 years almost of doing this for work is this is in all of us. And it doesn't mean everyone needs to speak to their guides. I certainly wasn't looking for mine. For me, it just happened. But there will be some spark inside you of desire, vision, something that you feel you're here to manifest. And even though the times that we're in right now are very tumultuous and the energy can be quite stop-start at the moment, there's really deep healing going on. So, 1 minute you're feeling great and the next minute you're like, oh, what is this? That's moving through us very fast as a collective. The message I feel for this group today and this broadcast that we're doing, welcome to those of you who are live and many of you are watching in the future, is to ask yourself, where do I want to rise in my life? Not with pressure, not with judgment, not with comparison to other people or kicking yourself or beating yourself up for where you think you haven't risen so far, but just to hold that question in your mind, just for the next 30 minutes or so when I channel, where do I want to rise in my life? And to believe that that rise is possible. And if that rise seems complicated, like let's say you're in really limiting circumstances right now and the rise that you want is really big, to intend for it and to trust that you can bring it to yourself, and then to stay intuitively open as much as you can to each step, each helper, each piece of the puzzle. And if it's that important to you, to be willing to give it time. The thing that your emotions, your uncomfortable emotions might want to manifest this week or this month, it might be possible for you to do it, but perhaps in 9 months or in 12 months' time, because there's going to be a whole journey for you to unfurl as you do it. So I say all of that because I can feel that pull in many of you, that feeling of, I know I'm here to do something else. I know I'm here to do the next thing. And it might not be a doing, it might be a being. It might be that what you're doing in life feels great, but you're, you know what? I wish I could get a handle on my stress, or I wish I could bring in a bit more peace. I wish I could pace my life differently. The message they were giving me in the car was, well, they were above the car, but you know what I mean. As I was driving, they were saying, everything is more possible for us as a world and as a people than we might be led to believe by the traditional narratives, because the traditional narratives are going to ask us to acquiesce and agree to what that narrative is driving us toward. And there might be nothing wrong with that. It might be exactly what we need. But when you bring your soul online and you allow your soul into your life, either more of the time, most of the time, or perhaps even all of the time, if you've reached that place, the way we drive the car, no pun intended, becomes quite different. And it only takes one of us driving the car differently to open energy, to change energy, to bring a different movement in the energy that's happening on Earth. So I'm speaking about the energetics that drive our actions, the energetics that create the form that we have in the world, in our lives. And if you're one of those sensitives who are very overwhelmed right now by everything going on in the world, I think all of us can kind of, agree with that to some degree. It's going to be really important for you to focus that on your own life. And if you're someone who is quite mission focused, mission ready, you know what you're here to do, you might be out there bringing this energy to others. And of course, for all of us, balance is going to be important. So even if you are the most driven, mission-focused extrovert that you know, you will still need moments where you're quiet, moments where you recharge. And if you give yourself to those regular recharge moments, you'll find you don't burn out. But if you avoid them, and you keep running and running and on adrenaline or on a momentum of energy that's going to deplete you, there will come a point when you're asked to stop. So the reason I bring that piece in about balance is, okay, some of you will have that in your history, that burnout, and you might be performing at a higher level than ever before. Whatever that performing is, whether it's your parenting, being a partner, being a friend, being a family member, you might be surprising yourself at how much energy is coming through you at the moment. And that's a sign that you're tapped in. That's a sign that you are allowing your soul energy to come through you and to be responsive to what's going on in the world right now. But be mindful of pockets of rest, pockets of receiving. And they might look different to what they would have looked like 2 or 3 years ago. 2 or 3 years ago, it might have been 3 days off. These days, it might just be an hour or two of meditation or yoga, and that gives you the same effect because energy has got faster. But equally, if you're not feeling very mission focused and you're listening to this with some envy, and envy is always a clue, envy is always a clue that there's something else that you want to bring into your life or that you could create for yourself that you're not creating. And that's always worth exploring when we feel envious. It's not about the other person or what someone else has. It's about something in us that needs to either undo our idea that what they have is something that we want, because maybe we don't really, we just think we do. And by exploring it, we'll see what's the truth of it. Or it might be that they're doing something or having something or experiencing something that you also wish you could. And so the key is we have to create it. So if you're listening to what I just said and you're like, I wish I was in my mission, you can be. You will be. You just have to set your intent and then be willing to intuitively carry out each step, each action. And the big key, and this is the final thing I'll say before I channel, the big key to becoming an activated creator in our world is to embrace the fact that it is a healing path. It is not that we have to overcome our fears, doubts, issues with ourselves before we create in the world. Quite the opposite is true. It's that we just need to be able and willing to go with any discomfort, what's moving through us as we step towards this goal, this dream, this vision. So if you're already into growth, healing, spirituality, metaphysics, the great news is you really letting yourself become a master creator in this world of your life, of the way you show up, of things that you're creating, that you're putting out there for people, whatever it is, and it might be all of those things, it's going to be really important that you embrace the healing path that is, because that will accelerate you. If you allow yourself to surrender into, the path of creation is interesting, intense, electrifying, and strong in these times, then you'll allow yourself to grow muscles you didn't know you had and find aspects of who you are as a soul coming in and moving out some of the things that you believed about yourself in the past as a human being. Nothing wrong with any of those things. They're the building blocks on which we build our future. But at this time, there is a lot of nostalgia. There are lots of memories around your past, who you've been in life. And equally, there is a request for a very new future. And that's something that we're going to create as a collective. And it's something that you're going to create in and for yourself. And those two things are very hand in hand. So if your mind has listened to anything I've just said and is starting to fight, either me or yourself, it's okay. But notice there's a fight going on and get curious about what's underneath the fight. So rather than stopping at the fight, well, I can't be a creator because I'm not creative. I'm nowhere near as good as my friends. Notice that's the part of your human self that wants to get in the way. And so you might just need to work with that a little bit and love that part of you and ask that part of you when and how it became so wounded. What are the roots? Where did I get that belief? And seeing that belief and giving that belief space and time allows us to let that belief grow and release and become new energy that we can use in the future. Okay, so I'm going to channel probably for around 25-30 minutes, so get comfortable. And I always say to people, you can close your eyes. It's probably the best way to experience it. Not a lot will be going on visually here. I'll have my eyes closed. But you take a journey inside yourself when you listen to a channel, and sometimes you'll listen to every word, and other times you will use the words coming through me and the frequency coming through me to springboard you off into other thoughts or dreams or visions that you're having. Oh, and because I know some of you will ask, who are my guides? I call them the Z's, as in the letter Z, as we would say in England. And I call them the Z's because the people who followed my work early on started calling them the Z's. There are 88 of them in the group, but as they said, they extend wider into source. So none of us are a fixed thing. So, take me as an example. This body, this identity, name is Lee, but I'm not really Lee. I'm also a composite of all of you and all of the people in my life that I am merged with, connected to. I'm this way as a result of all of those relationships. So they say nobody is really completely alone without being in relationship to other things. So what they said is we are a group, but we also, as we would understand it, they also channel. So they said we're a collective, and you can think of us like a consciousness library, but we can tap into all kinds of other pieces of information just as we can. So they say, try not to think of us as one fixed entity. We are instead an energy group, and some have been incarnating the planet, some haven't. They speak about themselves as a voice of galactic source. So they say that they are connected universally rather than just identified with the earth, as, for example, sometimes the angelic realm will only be very identified with the earth and the angelic realm. They come from a more universal standpoint. So Zachary was the name I was given as the lead spokesperson, and then I met a few others, Zachariah, Zayadora, and for a while they all spoke individually. And then around 2013, they homogenized and became one group again, because they said unity is what we need, not separation. And so they said, we will now speak as a singular voice. So that is how they became known as the Z's. And if any of you have read my book, Energy Speaks, or heard the audio version of it, 90% of that, the content is channeled material. So, okay, little sip of water, get yourselves comfortable. Hi, I'm Lee. I'm an intuitive, I'm a channeler, and I'm hosting something called A Weekend with Lee and the Z's. And for those of you who choose to come along, I will be, first of all, teaching intuitively, but also channeling my guides, the Z's, about the energies and what we're going through right now, but also who we might be able to become in the months and years to come. We'll be focusing very much on the now and the future, and anything that needs to be released will be released, but it's really a Become Your Future Self workshop weekend. And I'm leaving the topics very open so that I can fully respond to those of you who will show up for the event. Even if you can't make it live, just by booking before we get to the weekend, your energy will be included in the mix, so that if you choose to tune into the replays instead of experience the weekend live, your energy will still be counted. So we hope you can join us for a weekend with Lee and the Z's. If it resonates, we'd love to host you.